We like to call it advice tech because we really work with advisors up until now. We're expanding on that and being able to use a tool that tells them, here's some holes in this person's map and where you might want to help them to expand. We like to work in conjunction with other companies. And that was also a success I think Adam had early on, was putting together these partnerships.
Hello, fellow Martians. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today, very excited to have you, Keith. We got Keith Meyer. He's currently the CMO of Asset Map. And it's basically a tool that's helping advisors and their customers make better financial decisions. Kind of like like mapping out your assets and what you have in your household. We'll get more into that later, but super excited to have Keith because he's a very seasoned, very experienced marketer. I'm just going to go through some of I'll do a brief intro and then we'll get right into, we'll let Keith talk about himself as well. He's worked at companies like Visa, Charles Schwab, Prosper Marketplace, Commonwealth Bank, mostly in the financial space, and many years of experience. So we're going to talk about very high level stuff and really get to know what are some of the tips of growing in the field of marketing. Keith, thank you so much for joining the show.
Cool. Thanks, Simon. It's great to be here. I appreciate your taking the time to talk with me.
Yeah, no, really appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about your background and your journey to now you're at Asset Map for the last few months, but you've had a very lengthy career in the financial space. Talk to us about just your career and your background in marketing.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's a pretty long career at this point, but I grew up in the Midwest originally, outside of Milwaukee. Got my undergrad degree in marketing and business, and got a grad degree in international business and MBA. And like you said, I mostly have been in financial services, although my first kind of job out of grad school was at a consumer products company called Sunkist, which you might be familiar with. And I worked internationally with them, which was a good foundation, right, of branding and understanding the importance of branding and all of those kind of things and consistency. And then really after that moved into financial services. And like you mentioned, a number of big companies like AAA, Wells Fargo, Charles Schwab, Visa. And then about 10 to 12 years ago, I had my first experience with a startup, right? And being the head of marketing at a company called Prosper, which you could argue is one of the very first fintech companies, if not the first in the world, and one of the first companies to think about how can you use technology to break apart the financial system and make it more consumer friendly. And then after that, worked at a number of other startups, all in the fintech space, except for one, which was a nonprofit news organization that I worked at for a period of time. And like you mentioned, most recently, the last almost 6 months or so, I've been the chief marketing officer at a company called Asset Map, which is in the fintech or wealth tech space. We like to call it advice tech because we really work generally with advisors up until now. We're expanding on that going forward, but that's kind of where we are right now.
Cool. Yeah, we'll dive into Asset Map a little in just a few moments, but first, we're going to do our traditional dab of hot sauce. As usual, I have two options in front of me. I'm feeling more like starting off with something lighter, like a habanero.
Okay.
And then I'll move over to a Carolina Reaper later on when it gets real hot. But what do you got? What do you got for us today?
I wish I had something more like sexy like you have and cool, but I just have sriracha because I really like it. So that's what I chose.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. You can just do a bigger shot than I will take. So I will pour about a quarter or half a spoon, or now it's a full spoon.
Well, good for
habanero. Yeah, it gets all the way to the top.
Okay.
So we'll do this first dab. You got a spoon?
I got it.
Okay, cool.
I'm ready to go.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Even that super spicy. Wow. Okay. Hopefully you'll be able to talk. Whew.
I won't be, but luckily I'll be asking you questions and you'll be doing most of the talking.
Woke me up.
All right. Ooh, I'm awake as well. Okay, let's get into it. First, let's talk a little bit about Asset Map. What is it? And what problem are you guys solving for?
Yeah, so Asset Map is a visualization software tool made for advisors to kind of be able to have deeper and more easily transfer. I don't know how to say it, easier transferable conversations with their clients. And what I mean by that is generally, if you've ever worked with an advisor, the way that they talk to their clients is very complicated, right? It's a lot of charts and graphs and products and things like that, as opposed to taking a step back first and to say to the person who's the client, hey, what does your financial picture look like right now? What do you have? What do you not have? What are your liabilities? What assets do you have? How much money do you make? What insurance do you have? What legal entities do you have? All of those kind of things, and being able to use a tool that tells them here's some holes in this person's map and where you might want to help them to expand what they're doing financially.
Yeah. Okay. So I go to, so basically the current way of working with a financial advisor is very complicated. You got a lot of different charts and a lot of different documents, and it's just very complicated. But Asset Map brings it all into one place, allows the client, me,
Yeah,
to visualize my whole financial situation better. So advisors can also make better decisions as well.
that's right. And so that the individual clients can make better decisions also. So they, what's shifted in the advisory space is the ownership of kind of all of that information. Where up until now, it's really been it's been the advisor owning that, and then potentially dictating or managing somebody's account. Whereas most people nowadays want to say, hey, I want to take it. I want to own that. It's my money. It's my information. I want to be involved with making the decision of that. So it's really being an advisor. You're advising somebody about what they could do as opposed to dictating what they have to do. And so it's quite popular with clients, and it causes them, like, I'll give you an example. We get feedback all the time where instead of it being like a dental appointment, which I think it has been, where people are like, oh my God, I got to meet with my advisor. It's so painful. I don't understand half of what they're talking about. They use all these buzzwords. Now people actually ask for more meetings with their advisor because they finally get it and they kind of understand where they are, and they get excited about their financial health and where they can go to, and whether that means they see more visually, okay, I'm closer to my goal than I thought on being able to pay for my kids' college education, or I'm closer than where I thought I would be toward retiring early, or anything like that. Or maybe, hey, I didn't even realize, I heard there's something called long-term disability insurance, but I don't even know what that is. Like, why do I have to have it? And do I have to have it? Maybe I don't, maybe I do. I mean, so it's helping that conversation and making it a two-way street instead of one way. And so that's kind of been the success of Asset Map. I just throw out there, the way it started was Asset Map was started by an advisor himself. So Adam Holt, who's the founder of the company and really came up with the idea, he's an artist himself, and he used to draw everything out for his clients manually. And he's like, hey, he had the light bulb moment where he said, hey, why can't there be a software that allows any advisor to be able to do what I already do and draw it out? It started with his own advisory practice. People really loved it. He expanded it out to the other advisors within his office, and then eventually broke it off as its own company because it had so much success early on with that kind of smaller group. So he's very invested in it himself. That's why advisors love it, because they realize the developer and the person who came up with the idea is one of their own. And he had so much success with it that they can kind of replicate the success that Adam had.
Yeah, one of the best ways to start a business is find a problem that you currently have and then build it for yourself. Right?
Exactly.
A lot of people say that. So, yeah. Okay, so Asset Map started 2008, around 2008, 2009, right? It's been 3-4 years now. Where are we at right now? to give us a sense, give the listeners a sense of where Asset Map is. Any figures you can share with us? Number of advisors that are using the platform, revenues potentially.
Yeah, so we've got over 5,000 advisors using the platform right now, which is growing quite rapidly. It's one of the reasons why I came into the company. But and we've got over, I think the dollar value, the most recent one is $1.5 trillion in assets that are represented on Asset Map software. So a lot
Wow.
of uh, um, data there that we collect and visualize. And where the company is
Wow.
right now as a company is really at an inflection point where this happens with a lot of startups, right? You get to the point where you've had quite a bit of success with just kind of trying out a lot of things. You could call it shiny object syndrome, jumping at opportunities that come along and just, figuring those out and figuring out what works and doesn't work. But at some point, companies get to a stage where it's like, okay, I need to be a little bit more, maybe more thoughtful about where I am. I need to be a little bit more strategic about what I want to do going forward. I've matured to a level where I have a lot of clients. I need to make sure that those clients are happy and not jumping ship for somebody else. Honestly, right now, it's literally within the last month, but even since we've talked last time, there's a number of competitors that have come out with versions of the front end of our asset map. And so while that's flattering,
Oh wow.
we need to constantly be ahead of that with other competitors. And so we're iterating our
Hmm.
product as well as who we focus on over time to be sure that, we're always at the forefront of stuff happening. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and where are you guys at right now in terms of like revenues? Do you have is that something that is publicly
Yeah,
available?
so we're still in the $5 to $10 million range. So still startup phase. We
Yeah.
have consistent subscription revenue every month, and we actually up until now really didn't need to raise any external funds because we had enough internally being kicked
Mm,
off from revenue. So that is somewhat
right.
unusual with startups. And the only reason we're raising money now, which is actually quite a small amount as a Series B, quite small compared to most other Series Bs that are coming out right now. I'd say the amount that we raised is in the range that many companies now do for seed or even pre-seed. But we're able to mix that with
Oh,
revenue that we have to be able to grow the company to the next level. So we could have perpetuated without any raise and still grown, but we want to accelerate that growth and expand into other markets quicker, which is why we raised the funds.
right, right. And so my understanding publicly, it's you guys did a Series A, 1 to 1.5 million USD, if I'm
It's quite a
not
bit more than
mistaken.
that, but
Oh, it's more.
yeah, yeah.
How much was it for Series A?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant Series B. Yeah, Series A, yes, was about $1 million,
Yeah, yeah.
between one and one
Was
and a
about a
half
million
million
dollars.
dollars. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, and the Series B right now is still in process and it hasn't been disclosed
Yeah,
yet.
we haven't disclosed it publicly, but it's closed, and we're already, working on utilizing those funds in a number of ways. We are hiring quite a few people. I hired a person yesterday. I'm hiring a new person in the next 2 weeks on my team. Um, we are a team of just over 30 right now, and we'll probably be up to 40 or 50 within the next 6 months.
All right, sounds good. Oh, I guess I guess we gotta do a shot of hot
What?
sauce.
You're gonna
What?
kill me.
We couldn't talk about the amount raised. We couldn't talk about the amount raised. Why? All
Okay,
right, that's okay. That's okay.
I'm ready.
That's all right. You
I
got
like
it.
seeing
All
you.
right.
You do.
Cheers.
Yours is a lot worse than mine.
I'm gonna bring this hot sauce to you one day when I'm
Okay,
heading down. You're in San Francisco,
that's right.
right?
Yeah,
Most of the time, or
just outside of San Francisco, but
yeah.
yeah,
What's it called?
Emeryville. Yeah,
Emeryville is where you live,
Emeryville. Yeah,
right? I remember.
yep.
I remember. Yeah, but you grew up in Wisconsin, which is a much smaller place.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a suburb of Milwaukee, which is a smaller city, but still, a decent sized city. But yeah, the Bay Area is much, 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 much bigger. And
Yeah,
yeah,
much better. Yeah. Anyways, I'll come visit you one day. I'll bring you some of my
sounds
hot
good.
sauce. Um, All right. So we talked about some of the stats about Asset Map. Let's talk a little bit about the marketing channels. So over 5,000 um, financial advisors are using the platform, right? And over 1.5 trillion of assets under management, or that are connected to Asset
Right.
Map. Is that so? Is the key just to get more financial advisors to use it, and then they will bring their clients, or is Asset Map focused on both sides? Like they want to get financial advisors to come on the platform, and they're also focusing on getting users on the
Yeah,
platform as
that's
well.
a good question. I mean, up until now, most of our marketing and most of our focus has been to bring individual financial advisors onto the platform, using it with their clients. And
Hmm.
obviously, through word of mouth, either expanding it within their office, they might work in an office of 10 to 20 people and they evangelize it internally, or
Yeah.
and more recently, we've signed on some bigger uh, enterprise size firms, right? Which is a growth category for us. So instead of having, one advisor come on, then 10, and then maybe 15, now we're looking at enterprises that have thousands of advisors, right? And having us be approved on their platform and available for use for that much larger number of advisors. And there's different ways we can do that, right? It might just be that we're approved and then the individual advisors buy us, but it's easier for them to do it because we're already approved from a compliance standpoint on their platform, or it's actually purchased by the enterprise and then dispersed out to their whole client base, which obviously is kind of awesome for us. But to answer your question about
Mm.
consumers, we are looking at the consumer space. So we have many people that come to us that often don't work with an advisor, and they say, hey, I don't really want to work with an advisor. I'm not sophisticated enough with an advisor. I don't have enough money to work with an advisor, but I want to be able to look at my financial picture. Can you guys do something for us?
Mm.
And we are looking
Mm.
into expanding into the consumer space, where anybody, like any one of us, can just go there, enter some information about ourselves, and then see, hey, this is where I am. I can maybe compare my picture to a best case scenario of somebody who's similar to me, and kind of go, hey, here's some areas where I might want to think about investing or buying insurance, or maybe I need to cut my liabilities here or there, or whatever. Or I need to do something in a different way for tax purposes. So I would say, even myself, that's the first thing I said before I knew much about Aspen. When I was first looking into the company and considering even working here, I was like, I want this for
Yeah.
myself. Even though I do have a financial advisor, I'm like, I want to
Mm.
look at this myself, because I
Hmm.
built a really crappy version myself in Excel. And, wouldn't it be nice
We
to be
all
able
have
to
one.
see that? Yeah, somewhere else. Yeah, where it was a little bit more comprehensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, let's talk about the marketing channel for the financial advisor piece first, because I assume that's how the company grew in its early infancy. Adam Holt being a financial advisor himself by trade. What were some of the key marketing channels? I guess in the early beginnings, you weren't around yet at Asset Map, but do you know what really worked for them in the early
Yeah. So
goings, focusing on
earlier,
the financial
mhm.
advisor market?
Earlier on, obviously, it was word of mouth from Adam and his huge network, right? He is involved with a lot of financial advisors, and not only his own office, but other, through other industry groups and things like that, where he could be involved with talking to those types of people. So really early on, I think that was the success of it. I mean, the other thing was Adam's focus, and I think the focus of the company even to this day, has been around, you mentioned it, financial inclusion, and that includes inclusion of other companies that focus on advisors and other financial software, right? So we've never been
Hmm.
hardcore trying to compete against other companies. We like to work in conjunction with other companies, and that was also a success I think Adam had early on, was putting together these partnerships with other financially focused companies, or even other financial software companies, where we could cross sell uh, uh, solutions to advisors that were in cooperation with each other. I think later on, I think a big part of the success of Asset Map was using social media, both paid and unpaid, and getting the word out about Asset Map that way. One of the and obviously to do social media, as you're familiar with, you need content, right? You need a lot of content to pump out all the time to keep people engaged with you.
Yeah.
Adam is a really great public speaker. He even has his own podcast, speaking of podcasts, and which is quite successful. And he's out at events and in the media quite a bit. I mean, it slowed down a lot during COVID, but he's starting to get out there again.
Yeah.
And a key part of our future growth in terms of making sure we have enough content is expanding our use, I guess, of Adam as a subject matter expert and a financial evangelist, and just being out there in public. And that's a big way of bringing people in, both advisors like you were talking about, because they trust Adam and they hear him out in the media a lot, and they listen to his podcast or listen to him on other people's podcasts. And so that's been a key validation for us, is that, he knows what he's talking about, and he developed something for himself, like you mentioned earlier, that kind of dispersed out, that people could follow his pattern.
So with social media, content, like you said, is pretty key. What kind of content really works? Is social media still a huge channel for you guys now?
It is. It is definitely a huge channel for us. A lot of what we do, and a lot of what we've done up until now, has been demand generation focused. So we have, because this is it's a really a B2B and a B2B2C play. We have, live salespeople and customer support people that work with both potential clients and current clients to make sure that they understand SMF before they, hit the switch and actually purchase and become a subscriber. And I'll touch on that maybe a little bit later if you want to get into that. But we spend a lot of money on, and we have an extensive amount of training for people as well, so they understand how to use the platform and the depth of things available on it. But to answer your question in terms of external marketing, yes, we still do a lot of social media marketing. Like I mentioned, we do a lot of even just individual posts on sites like LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. We do a lot of paid on Google and Facebook, and with a lot of different types of content. One of the most successful things recently we've done is UGC, or user-generated content, where, for example, an advisor being interviewed and then just talking about how they use Asset Map, those tend to convert to leads at the highest rate. Surprisingly, to be honest, I would have never picked them. I would think that they look really unprofessional, but people gravitate towards those because they're more real, right? They look more real, and they are more real.
Like unedited, unscripted, and they're just talking about it themselves, and you don't give them a script or anything, kind of.
They really are, to be honest, somewhat scripted, but then they can talk about other things as well. But they don't look scripted, right? They look like they are just natural. But whether they are or not, people tend to gravitate toward those type of things more than like slickly produced videos or other things. But video definitely works better than static too.
For sure.
Yeah. So
for sure. And in terms of video,
sorry, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah. In terms of video, I'm just curious, which channels really work for you guys? Because you guys are focusing, good thing is you can focus on the business side, which is targeting the financial advisors themselves, or you can focus on the consumer side. You have both sides. But I assume the consumers that are interested in your content are probably more financial savvy. Maybe you can still consider them B2B. Which channels work best for videos like that you guys have seen? Which channels are the best for engagement and that brings the most, leads to the door?
You might be surprised, and I was actually extremely surprised, that the channel that works best for us is Facebook. So actually Facebook, not just Meta, but like Facebook itself. And you would not think for a B2B audience and for advisors that channel would work. Like, I would definitely pick other ones besides that, but that one has been the most highly converted channel for us. Google as well, Google search. Google search is growing quite a bit for us right now. We've done a lot of optimization on that side, and I think we're doing better. Yeah. So surprisingly, from a channel perspective,
Wow.
Facebook, I'd say the highest growth from a lead generation standpoint right now for us is SEO. So search engine optimization stuff on our site with content. And so we work
Right.
with an external agency that
Yeah.
is literally pumping out for large amounts of either blog posts or page content on our site per
Yeah.
month. And we're getting quite a large volume of very high quality leads. And we define a lead as somebody who's signed up to get a demo from us. So it's quite far down the funnel already
Okay.
once we consider that to be a lead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So they sign up with a demo, not just putting an email or clicking or a simple phone call.
Right.
They have to sign
I
up
want to
for a
book a
demo.
demo
That would be
with
a
you
lead.
for 30 to 45 minutes and get a demo on what the product is all about.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's talk about these two key areas. I'm very interested. So on the Google, let's talk about the Google search side, and then we'll jump into Facebook because I'm very interested and I'm sure the audience is as well. Google search, is it long form content that is working right now? Are you guys doing any kind of thought leadership pieces too, where it's like the top 15 or top 20 financial advisors in the US? Like, what kind of content really resonates right now
On
on
Google.
search?
So on Google,
Yeah.
most of what we do is more basic, right? It's all around key optimizing all of the keywords that we use, including the
Hmm.
most basic things like optimizing the searches around our name and versions of our name, right? And our brand.
Okay.
And then from a content standpoint, it's more like I like I mentioned, people searching for like let's say financial planning software, and then we're not really serving them
Mm.
up customized content through Google, right? Facebook, yes, but Google is much more
Yeah.
of just like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
indexing high on the keywords that
For sure.
we want to be on, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So 4 pieces a month, and so let's move over to the Facebook side then. Facebook being a top channel for financial seems
Weird,
like
right?
it's weird because you would assume most people would assume LinkedIn by far, right? And we've actually had a couple of companies come on and saying that are in the financial space like yourself, and they said LinkedIn has worked wonders because they did webinars and all that stuff on LinkedIn. What works on Facebook? What is working right now? Is it the ad side? Is it organic? Are you guys doing anything weird like creating groups and all that stuff, or what is working
No,
there?
it's mostly on the ad side. Like I mentioned, it's UGC content works best right now. And then secondarily video, and then third, static kind of imagery. Um, Definitely when there's topical content being pumped out, that gets a lot of interaction, but even unpaid, right? So if we're doing things, if Adam does an event or if Adam is promoting a podcast or other things, those tend to get a lot of interaction as well. And we actually do get a significant amount of leads through something like that. Um,
Mm,
like I mentioned, the SEO side of things is relatively new for us. So let's say the last 3 months.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I am quite surprised that I would say so of the leads that we're getting, not so we generate leads generally two areas, online
Hmm.
digital activities like we're talking about, and then also we do a lot of events generate their own type of leads and go through their own process. These
Mm,
online
okay.
leads, I would say now about a third of our last month's leads are coming through just search engine optimization activities, meaning people are coming to our site because they see our content in other places. They're finding us through search or other ways, coming to our site, reading content, and then signing up for a demo, which
Mm,
is quite new for us. And
mm,
so our site traffic is way up, our interaction with our content is way up, but it's tough, as you know, because you just have to constantly pump it out. You can't just do it and then stop, because then you're not going to be you
yeah.
don't get indexed as much with Google and other search sites. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
that piece of it has been quite a surprise to me, how fast we've been able to grow that. And so it's a trick, and I can guarantee I could not do it on my own. So I'm glad that we were working with an external agency who has expertise in that area, who's done quite a good job for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So we got social media, paid and unpaid, both works. We got Google search, right? Both organic and paid. That works really well. You talked about content marketing already, SEO. You talked about events, both online and offline, right?
That's right.
Both kind
We
of
do both.
events.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
We
Anything else? Any other channels that you guys are using right now? Do you use a lot of email marketing to nurture? Is there a lot
Yes.
of nurturing that is required to get them to book a demo, or is it typically like self-serve and you get a lot of conversions like
Yeah,
immediately?
we do also do email marketing. And in some cases, depending on where the lead's coming from, we might work with an external partner that cultivates those leads for us and gets them to the demo stage, which then they get passed over to our sales team. Um, and
Mhm.
just to as an aside, we do probably way more events than I would have ever expected. So we do, like you mentioned, both online and offline,
Mhm.
but we attend probably 5 or 6 events a month, right? So somebody from Asset Map is going there,
Wow.
especially during the high event season, which is in the fall and the spring. We also have our own
Mhm.
event, which is at the end of September. We just finished it, called Advice Tech Live, which we sponsor with other. We put it together, but we sponsor with other um, wealth tech providers and like I mentioned, cooperative companies that we work with that are very often could be seen as competitors to us, but we want to expand the whole universe uh, of the ecosystem and not just try to take it over ourselves. There's enough space for everybody to play in there.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, once we go to those events, we cultivate those leads and go through a process like you were talking about, where yes, we email them. Sometimes they convert to demos over time. Sometimes we'll recultivate them to see if they'll convert later. One thing I didn't mention that we do email wise too is we have different levels of subscription. So kind of a low, middle, high type pricing where you get different kind of
Mm.
access to the
Mhm.
platform. So we do a lot of marketing to move people up between those levels of subscription. So we're constantly pumping out new things on our platform. And so, for example, when new things come out at the
Wow.
elite phase, which is the higher pricing model, we do cultivation to the people who are on that mid tier and say, hey, just so you know, all this new cool stuff came out in the elite tier. You might want to think about upgrading type message. And those tend to work quite well too, because by that time, those people already understand Asset Map and have been using it, and they kind of go, "Yeah, that would be awesome if I could be able to do that thing," and they might be able to jump in and pay for it. So we do
Yeah.
upgrade or upsell campaigns quite a bit too.
I'm curious, like with all that you got different channels, you got online and offline, and you do a lot of both. Um, what CRM system are you guys using right now to keep track of all of
Yeah,
that?
so we use HubSpot. And we use HubSpot for everything, right? So we are email
Yeah.
marketing provider is HubSpot. The sales team uses it. The marketing team uses it. The customer support team uses it. So we use quite a bit of the features of HubSpot rather than dispersing that out through other providers.
Yeah, that's true. And it's always good to have all data in one centralized location,
Yeah.
anyways, and it becomes a single source of truth. Is your website on HubSpot as well?
No. And then you're going to ask, oh, I'm going to have to have hot sauce again, right? Because I have to remember who who our provider is for the website. It's the big
No,
flew out of my head all
that's
of a sudden. But yeah,
no, that's
we
okay.
don't.
That wasn't
Okay,
a
cool. We don't.
wasn't a real
Okay,
question.
good. We don't have any unusual platform that we use to host our website. I apologize. I just don't remember. All of a sudden, it just flew out of my head who we use. But
It's
it's
okay.
a normal kind of platform in terms of hosting our public website, right? So we have the platform, which is custom, right, which is the actual product, and then the external facing website, which is different. Yeah.
By the way, I don't control the strobe light. The light just goes off when it feels
Oh my
like
God.
you
Okay.
were trying to dodge the question. Actually, my hands are here. There's
Okay.
no
Okay.
control.
Good to know.
Just letting you know. um, so you have so many different channels. You said Facebook is the best, one of the best channels right now. If you were to, obviously, you calculate the CPA for every single channel, right? Is that do you know which one of your channels lead to the best kind of LTV to CAC ratio
Yeah, I
right
would.
now?
Yep. I would say out of all the ones we talked about, the one that is going to have the best, um, let's say, CPA, right, would be an A would be like a demo, like I mentioned, would be Google search,
Yeah.
if you can believe it.
Okay. Still Google search.
Google
Yeah,
search,
it's still
but
Google
from a
search.
cost perspective, we don't get as many leads from Google, but from a cost perspective, they're very. Uh, we have a great CPA. Um,
And you're talking about organic, right?
no, I'm
Not
talking
paid.
about paid. Organic. So I
You're
was,
talking about paid.
yeah,
Okay.
speaking of organic, so on the SEO side, we don't have that calculation yet because it's so new. But I think
Yeah.
it starts playing itself out over the next several months, I think that will probably move into the pole position because our growth on lead generation is coming from that way. And there's a lot of positive things about that, right? Because when somebody comes in through our website, it's a little bit farther down the funnel already. So it's more cost effective even from that standpoint, right? So even we have less people having to touch the lead because it goes through there. They have an online sign up instead of going through customer service or something like that. Where, obviously we're paying for those employees. And so um, as much as possible, from a cost perspective, we like to go that way. The hand holding is good because people get
Hmm.
a little bit more education around what asset map is. And so they kind of buy into it a little bit easier one because it's whenever you have a business focused software, it's not easy to get your head around like what does this really do. There's like 20 other companies that say they do the same thing. How do I choose you? And so having a demo or having a discussion with somebody does tend to make them a longer term customer because they buy into it in a deeper way.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. By the way, how large is the sales team versus the marketing team right now?
So we're super small. I told you we just hired one person. It's me and one other person plus this new person. We're hiring a market research manager in the next 2 weeks. So we'll have a team of four.
Okay.
The sales team right
Yeah.
now is, let me add it up in my head, 1, 2, 3, about 7 or 8 people. That includes support
7 or 8 people.
people, actual retail salespeople, people that are more externally focused that are out there beating the bushes and getting new sales, as well as the head of sales who's at the same level as me. So we have a chief sales officer as well. So they're probably twice as big as the
Wow.
marketing team. So yeah, right now.
Well, you guys are definitely pushing above your weight class. I mean, $1.5 trillion under the platform, and you know, helping over 5,000 financial advisors. You guys looks like you guys might have to grow a little
I
bit
know.
to manage all of
That's
this,
right.
right? Yeah.
That's right. I mean, and
Uh,
like you said, that was my feeling even when I came on. I'm like, how can they do all the work that they're doing with these few people in the company,
yeah,
But we do work really hard, but we're also really good at what we do. So we become very efficient in
yeah,
that way, and we want to make sure we keep that efficiency, right, and don't just hire tons of people that don't have enough to do. So we're very cautious on who we bring on board and that's the right fit, and also cautious about making sure that we have the right roles laid out so that people are really doing the stuff that we need to have done. So
amazing, amazing. Well, I really, Keith, thank you so much for coming on. It's just been so much fun talking about just from all the way from like nitty gritty details of your campaign, to high level and just the full spectrum. You've been amazing. I couldn't get you to take more than one hot sauce, so I'm a little disappointed.
yeah.
But what we're gonna do is we'll end off with a dab of hot sauce. But
Okay.
before that, let's hear a little bit about what's to come for Asset
Hmm.
Map. Let's the next 6 to 12 months. I know you guys are expanding to the B2C area. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that or anything else. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So really quickly, and again, this is one of the things that attracted me to come work at the company because we're expanding in a couple of areas. So we're expanding the platform vertically, right? So we're the name of our company is Asset Map, and the visual one-page visualization is the asset map. But we have a whole bunch of other things in the platform that we've developed in the last couple of years, plus are building on, including tools that are for advisors and consumers that allows them to how do you compare yourself to somebody else? How do you overlay with another person who's about the same age as you? How do you develop out a plan that covers your kid's education or other things, right? So there's a lot of depth being built into the platform, and also that we want to get across from a marketing standpoint. And on the horizontal side, we're expanding who we're focusing on. So not just individual advisors on one end, the enterprises on the other end, consumers. And so figuring out amongst all of those, we can't just say, as a marketing person, right? We're just going to be focusing on consumers. We've got to figure out which consumers, how do we segment that? How do we figure out who would be most attracted to working with us? How do we pick consumers that aren't going to compete against our advisors, right? We don't want to throw out our revenue generating category with going to a new one. So it should be in a new area for us, but also that doesn't compete against our current business. And same on the enterprise side. So we're building out the infrastructure to be able to do all of those things. But so that's where I think we're a big focus is going to be for the company, both from a marketing standpoint, sales standpoint, product standpoint, tech standpoint, all of those things is building out that. And the biggest one from a tech standpoint is going to be the consumer, right? That's a whole different market. We've got it's much less educated about finances very often than an advisor. So how do you do it in a way that's simplified, that they get value out of it, and that we ensure that we're supporting their financial literacy and financial wellness, right? And not just advisors, so that for the long term, they can make the right decisions. That's really what we want to do.
Yeah, no. And it sounds like with all these new departments, or not departments, but segmenting the different markets from B2C to B2B and B2E, sounds like you're going to need a couple of data analysts to make sure that the data is kept proper.
We definitely will. And that's going to be for sure a growth area. We, like a lot of tech companies, we have a lot of data, and we just need somebody to help us, understand what it all means. So,
Well, cool. Well, maybe in the new year, when we come back on the show and everything is going well, we'll hear all about this, where the company's at by then.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'd love to have a follow-up. That'd be great.
All right, let's we'll end off with a shot. I think I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go spicier this time.
I know.
I'm gonna pull out my Carolina Reaper, and I will. Oh, this is perfect, because then we can turn off the camera, and then I can just slowly die off camera.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, I gotta see your face on that.
Oh God!
Can you even talk?
No, I can't. Keith, thank you so much for joining.